They're unrealistic. I should be prettier. Well, good luck. How are you going to do that? Plastic surgery? I know I should do it every day, but I'm really bad at doing habits because I have like almost no self-control. Just saying I'm beautiful. See, I don't feel like that's true right now, right? Even if you think your feet are ugly, if you say it enough times, I really like my feet are pretty. Other people like my feet. People would want to suck my feet. You will start to believe it, and I know that sounds insane. I'm a millionaire. Like, I'm not a millionaire, and me saying that is not going to make it true. Imagine someone was sitting next to you and literally saying all of the negative thoughts that you were saying to yourself in your head. Would you be friends with them? No, you wouldn't, because quite frankly, when my negative thoughts were at their worst, I was horrible to myself. Like, no one would ever have been friends with my thoughts. So to even think that I can just sit there and like say that to myself in my head is kind of horrible, isn't it? And if anybody else heard what I was saying to myself in my head to other people, if people heard me saying that to other people, I would have been reported for bullying or, I don't know, something. Or just like ostracized from society. So it honestly baffles me how we can accept that we sit there and think these horrible things about ourselves, or generally just have a negative outlook on life without even realizing it, because it's not as though you're saying all of these things, and sometimes they can sort of go under the wayside a bit, and you can not really notice how negative they are. But to be honest, I find them quite life ruining, and I know that sounds really dramatic, but I'm sorry, that's how I see it. But they just bring your mood down. If someone's like constantly in your head, if you're constantly saying to yourself, you're fat, you're ugly, if you do that, then this terrible thing will happen, then inevitably that's going to make you feel shit about everything. So today we're talking about how to stop or reduce or whatever automatic negative thoughts. We're going to talk about my history with negative thoughts and the types of negative thoughts we can get, and then we'll go through how we can reduce them. I'm also going to be doing in the future some episodes on like CBT stuff. So, because I talk about therapy a lot in my podcast, about getting therapy, having therapy, about what it sort of involves. But I want to like dedicate a whole episode to basically cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the gold standard for, which means like everybody with depression should have it, even if it's just mild. So it is the gold standard for treating depression. All of the types of depression have a type of behavioural therapy in it. Some of them have DBT, which I think is dialectal. I never know what it stands for, but dialect behavioural therapy. That's for some other mental health conditions. But today we're just talking about mainly depression or anxiety. So I guess I'll talk about my history and the different types of negative thoughts, because I kind of think they come in together really well, because I think there's a lot of examples that I have where I've had a lot of negative thoughts and they just link into the story really well. So let's go on to types. There's actually, how many have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 types, and I almost forgot about including this, and then I was like, whoa, wait there, they're not just negative thoughts, there are loads of different types of them. And I think the biggest one that I have is, I have quite a few of them actually. Let's just start from the top. Number 1, jumping to conclusions. So for example, you're basically assuming what's going to happen or the answer to something. For example, I want to buy a house, as an example. This is actually an example from my life, I suppose. I want to buy a house. I don't have any money for a deposit. Who the fuck does at my age? You got to be like, have a trust fund or something, literally. Or have a lot of help from your parents. Anyway, I wanted to ask my mum for help, and I was saying to Tom, she's definitely going to say no. She's going to say no. Like, I was just jumping to conclusions. Like, I hadn't asked her, hadn't even hinted at it. I was like, she's going to say no. Like, why would she say yes? And that's like an example of my negative thinking just just saying like, well, there's no point in asking because I know the answer. That is jumping to conclusions. Plot twist, she did lend me some money. But there are loads of other examples of that. I still haven't bought a house though. Because then, shit hit the fan really, didn't it, with the housing market. But that is another story. I've got loads of jumping to conclusion examples. And this is a big thing in sports. So I had, you might want to listen to my previous episode. It's a bit random, to be honest, but I quite liked making it. So it's about when I used to be an athlete, basically. I know I don't look like one, but see, that's a negative thought. Self-deprecating there. That was more of a joke, but and I don't look like one now because I'm not one now, so kind of makes sense. But back in my heyday, oh boy, was I muscly. Yes. Now I'm still a little bit, but not so much. So in sports psychology, there's lots of things, but one of the things is if I went into a competition being like, I know I'm not going to win, then I'm not going to win. Like, it's not, if your head is already not in it, you've jumped to the conclusion and said, I'm not going to win, unless you're literally competing against nobody, or you are the bloody, like well above the rest or something like that, then you're probably not going to win. You need, when you watch people like Conor McGregor, or he's an MMA fighter, or any fighting sport, they have extreme levels of self-confidence. Whether it's fake or not, it doesn't really matter. Like, it does, but it doesn't matter because the whole point of their like fighting talk is to firstly reaffirm to themselves that they are good enough. I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win. Like, you stand no chance against me. And it's also to intimidate the other person. Now, I'm not saying you go around life being like, I'm going to fucking do amazingly in this PowerPoint presentation, and you're not. But we can take something from them, and it's like, but I'll get into a bit later with sort of positive self-talk. They're like on an extreme level. But they kind of need to be, because otherwise they're not going to win. You doubt yourself, you're not going to win. Anyway, that's just a little throwback to my sporting times. I think my negative thinking during that period did affect how well I did as well. I definitely could have done better if I'd had some sports psychology training. And I think we had like one session on it, but I don't think it was enough. You really need to believe in yourself to do well in sports. Like, I can't even, like, it's just, you do. And I would say that in life too. Also, being an actress now, I'm just going to call myself that. No, see, that's me doing it again, being like, oh no, I'm not an actress, but I'm acting, aren't I? Yeah, I've been paid to act. So being I don't want to be like up myself. There's a kind of fine line between being up yourself and being self-assured, isn't there? I don't want people to think, oh, she's a fucking bitch, like, but I do act. I'm literally going to a show tonight as soon as I finish this, actually. And I've got 2 shows tomorrow. And I'm applying to lots of acting shows and rehearsals and stuff. So I am acting. In acting, it's similar. You have to believe in yourself. I feel like do you know what? Even as a doctor, you have to believe in yourself. I have a lot of things where, in creative jobs in particular, you have to believe in yourself. In high stakes jobs, you have to believe in yourself. You can't have this negative self-thinking, otherwise it will really affect your mental state, how well you perform, your confidence. And you obviously can have it, but I think it will negatively impact your self-esteem and self-confidence. And that's kind of the point of my podcast, is to help you become a better you. I don't know if that's a phrase for anything. Maybe that can be my new tagline. Help you become a better you with Burrito and you. So I have a lot of things where I need to believe that I'm the fucking best, right? Acting, doctor. Now, there might be some jobs where, I don't know, shop assistant, I don't know, where you feel like that isn't the case. But it doesn't matter. if it still doesn't affect your job. Because if you don't believe in yourself in life, you are going to have a more negative outlook on life. You're going to have a more negative outlook on yourself. So even if you're not working as a doctor or working as an actress or working or as an athlete, I think this still applies to everybody. I don't want people to think, well, I'm none of those, so I don't need to think positively. Fuck that. I'll just keep mincing along with my negative thoughts and I'll get by. It'll be all right. I'll get my pension and then I'll be dead. Well, that took a turn. I'm sorry. And so, catastrophizing. Right, we're moving on to the next one. Catastrophizing is one of my biggest ones, as well as one that's coming up. Catastrophizing is basically where you think of the worst case scenario. It's kind of similar to jumping to conclusions, but like you think of the worst case scenario. If I get on that plane, it's going to blow up. Like it will. Like it will blow up and I'll die. I'm trying to think. It is fairly similar to jumping to conclusions, but I'd say like it's more severe. Like with catastrophizing, it's like if I do this, then this will happen. This really severe life-ending event will happen. Whereas when you're jumping to conclusions, it's kind of like, well, I'm not gonna get what I want, or I'm not gonna succeed in this. So, for example, oh my god, this used to happen to me a lot. Oh my god, I said that and I'm not sure I should have said that, and I'm going to lose my job as a doctor. I'm going to get called in front of the GMC and they're going to strike me off the register. This is literally what would go through my head, by the way. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. I'm going to then not have a job. I'm going to become homeless and I'm going to live on the streets. And that was what I thought when I was at my worst, I would think those things. And when I started my podcast and my YouTube channel and my blog, I was kind of like that. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Now I'm like so much more chill about it. I don't know why, just because I'm like used to it. And also I've been doing it for like 2 or 3 years. So I'm still, I haven't been struck off yet. So I must be not doing something that incorrectly or doing something right. I don't know. So yeah, I think also you overestimate the significance of some of your actions. Like, fair enough, if you go out and murder somebody, like, those things might happen that I just explained. But if you literally say, oh, I'd rather not go and do that PR on that patient. I don't know. I don't think I've ever said that, but not that I like love doing it, but digging myself a hole. But I'm trying to think of things that I would have said that would have made me go into that mental space, but they would have been something so benign and so small, like looking back on it, that I can't like think of anything that makes sense. Okay, let's say I had loads of discharge summaries to do. Talking doctor language now. I've got loads of discharge summaries to do, and someone says, oh, do you want to come and assist in theatre? And I'm like, oh my God, I've got so much like work on the ward to do you mind asking somebody else? And that's, I don't know, the reg asks or something, and that's a reasonable request, I feel. And you can say like, oh well, if you really do need me, then I can, but if it, sometimes it's just for like, oh, do you want to come and help, rather than like, I need you. So there's always someone that wants to go into theatre. So, but before I might have been like, oh my God, they're gonna tell the consultant that I didn't want to go into theatre, and then that whole like train of thought would ensue. So it was a pretty bad time. Next, overgeneralization. So let's say one time I got a coffee and I spilt it on somebody's leg, and it was really hot, and I was like, oh my God, have I burnt you? And then every time I buy a coffee, I feel like I'm going to spill it. So I get like really bad anxiety about it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to walk near anybody. As an example, that would be overgeneralization. As in previous experiences that you've had before where something's gone wrong or something, you've had a negative experience, and you then think, well, every time I have this particular situation, that's going to happen again and I'm going to burn somebody. But obviously, like, that's probably just a one-off accident. I'm assuming no malice behind your actions here, right? All of these situations, I'm assuming that you're not trying to murder somebody, that you're not trying to hurt somebody, and that you're not trying to make someone sad or whatever. I'm assuming that you're a good person, right? So if you're a bad person and listening to this and you think, oh, the last time I murdered somebody, I went to, I missed my dinner. Don't want to miss my dinner again. Well, no, okay? If you've murdered somebody, please stop listening and go hand yourself in. I keep talking about murder because in my last podcast, I was talking about how I was watching Making a Murderer Netflix documentary. Spoiler, by the way. If you want to watch it, skip ahead maybe like a minute or 30 seconds or something. What a fucking blue balls moment. I was like waiting, hoping that this story would wrap up. I was so obsessed with it because I wanted to know, did he get out or not? No, he fucking didn't. He's still in prison. I'm so sad about it. And now his mum's dead. So I'm pretty... I've been reeling after the loss of that. But I'm actually kind of glad that I now don't have a Netflix documentary that I'm like desperately trying to get through because I want to find out the answer. I feel so fucking blue balls, honestly. I just need to know what happened. Well, I know what happened, but I want to see him get out, and that's really saddened me. Anyway, back to the story. Labels. OMG, this is my biggest one. My biggest one in particular, and I really bring myself down. Like, this is the one where I'm saying, like, if your friend was sitting there saying those things to you, or your boyfriend, or your family member, or whatever, or just anybody. Maybe not anybody, because I've had some of these comments on YouTube and stuff like that, and I just don't really, like, care. Like, it doesn't bother me when a random person says to me, oh, you're fat. I'm like, cool, I already knew that. But thanks for reaffirming that to me. Not as though I've known that my whole life. Thank you very much. I've made whole podcasts about it. I have actively talked about it on my YouTube channel. So I really appreciate you leaving the comment because actually that just, it's great engagement. But also, I don't need your negativity. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say on the matter because I don't believe in giving these people the time of day because that's kind of what they want. But obviously, going back to it, if your boyfriend or friend or whatever was sitting next to you, let me tell you some of the thoughts that I think about myself, or have thought, not so much anymore, have thought about myself in the past. You're fat, you're ugly. You don't deserve a boyfriend. I don't know whether all of these are true. Your skin's really bad. You've got stretch marks. Everyone's going to look at your stretch marks and say, ew, or they might not say it, but they'll definitely think, you've got cellulite. Your cellulite's really disgusting. I can't believe you would even consider wearing those clothes. Like, cover your body so no one has to see it and everyone will be happier. Maybe just don't go outside. Just sit inside so nobody has to see your fat, ugly body. So those are the kind of things that would go through my head. And they're horrible. It's like, wow, no wonder I feel shit about myself. Like, and that is what I think people think, especially when they have self-esteem issues or low self-confidence. You have these labels that you constantly repeat in your head, especially if like you're getting like dressed up or something, and then you're like looking at yourself in the mirror a lot, and it's clothes you haven't worn for a while, and maybe they're a bit tighter than they were before, or maybe they just don't look good. You're not used to seeing them, blah, blah, blah. And I have like cried before I've gone out for food before because I've put on an outfit that I haven't worn for like a year. Maybe it's been tighter and it's like, oh, now I don't want to go and like, eat loads of lavish food and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's a hard one, but there is a way to get over it. The next one is like making should statements. I should be prettier. I should be thinner. I should be the top of my class. I should be getting A stars. I don't call them A stars anymore. I should be getting 8s. What the fuck is that? I should be having a child next year, like everyone else is, and I should be too. These are unhelpful should statements because there are should statements that are probably helpful. I should do the washing up. I should brush my hair. I should brush my teeth. I should be hygienic. Those are all helpful. But when you're making should statements about I should be like this, they're unrealistic. I should be prettier. Well, good luck. How are you going to do that? Plastic surgery? I mean, most people should or wouldn't be getting that, because it's not going to solve your problems necessarily. And also it's a lot of money. So also, a lot of people, a moderate amount of people, an unsurprising amount of people think that plastic surgery is going to solve their problems. But then they, especially with nose jobs, this is a particular problem, is people get a nose job and then they're unhappy with it. You can't actually change it after that, because obviously you've gotten rid of whatever you had before. You probably could, but then you have to put extra stuff in, blah, blah, blah. It's never going to look the same. And your face is something you look at all the time. So the next one is emotional reasoning. Sometimes you're just anxious and you're like, I don't know why I feel anxious, but I feel really anxious. I don't feel good. I feel pretty shit, actually. And you then assume that because you feel anxious, that the situation must be dangerous or worrying, or you need to get out of that situation. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Just because you have an emotional reaction to it. It might be that you've smelt something that reminds you of some kind of negative thing in the past. And, because smell is really linked to our memories. Like the smell place in our brain, the smell sensory, the place where we recognise smells in our brain is right next to the memory part. So that is why when you smell freshly mown grass, for example, you remember things like your childhood, or like when I smell cow manure or horse manure, or like a farm smell like hay, or I remember my childhood, and that's a really fond memory for me. I know that sounds really weird. I smell cow and horse poo and I have a really great time, but that was what my childhood was. I grew up on a farm. I had horses. We ran around the fields pretending to be horses and jumping on trampolines and riding horses and playing with the cows and the sheep. And do you know what I mean? So for me, it's a really nice memory. It's a really nice smell. It's not that I go actively seeking it out, but when I do smell it, I'm like, oh, it just brings back really nice nostalgic memories of picking up horse poo. I think the last one is personalization and blame. So they kind of come together. So a lot of things you can think, let's say somebody says something in a meeting and you think it's aimed at you. Would people please wash their dishes after they've used them? You think, oh my God, I didn't wash my dish the other day. That's definitely all aimed at me. That's my fault. Everyone hates me. Oh God, I can't believe I did that. I'm going to get fired from my job. That's a lot of negative thoughts coming together. Different types. That's labels, catastrophizing, my faves. So that would be where my thought process would have gone. And you then think everything is being personally, directed to you. And then you feel really guilty for it and you blame yourself. And it's not necessarily the case, but because your automatic negative thoughts are directing you that way, you're like, well, it's a habit. So I would say automatic negative thoughts are often a habit that we can train ourselves out of. So that is good news, isn't it? Yes, I'm nodding. Yes, it is. It's really good news because it's not something that needs to be there. It's just something that it's a learnt habit that we've gotten into, and I don't know necessarily where it comes from. I think maybe this is just me coming, working off the hoof here, but probably from anxiety. We want to avoid previous bad situations that we've gotten into. Low self-esteem. So for me, labeling myself as these things is, and then also someone else can't do it. So you're like, well, I've already labelled myself as fat and ugly. So if somebody else does it, then whatever. And also just trying to avoid negative situations from happening again that you've been through before. So let's move on to how do we get over negative thoughts. I've got here 6 steps. You don't need to do them all at once. Might take some time, but at least then you've got the kind of foundation. Number 1, I feel like you're already kind of getting there because you're listening to this podcast, you've gotten this far, and you're like, okay, yeah, I have a negative thought pattern. Because number one is just recognizing that you have a negative thought pattern. And recognizing, it's not just recognizing that you have negative thoughts, it's recognizing what they are. So the different types. What's your sort of pattern of negative thinking? And when does it happen? So for example, mine mainly happened at work when I did have them. Not that I still have them now. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fucking angel. But, you know, my brain isn't full of like, yay, I'm so fucking amazing. Like, I'm the best thing ever. No, I do still have like negative thoughts. I mean, you've heard some of them. That's just happened automatically. I've said them out loud. And I definitely think my podcast has helped because, number one, I talk about mental health stuff, self-improvement stuff all the time. But also I speak out loud all of my thoughts. And some people are like, Dawn, how do you monologue for an hour? I'm like, I do not know. But it's a thing that I've practiced. But that's going off topic. But it has helped because it's, you know, I just verbalize all of my thoughts. And then I sort of, you know, even in that, I was like, I noticed myself a couple of times being like, oh my God, that's my thought pattern, you know? I caught myself a couple of times. If you listened back to the first part of that podcast, this podcast, I caught myself a couple of times being like, oh, when I said, oh, I'm an actress, and I'd be like, no, I'm not an actress. Like, but then I'd be like, wait, yeah, I am. I'm acting. I'm getting paid for acting. And that is, I'll talk about in fact, why don't I just talk about it now? Number 2, write them down. You could speak them. I do think seeing them helps. Like, if you just speak them, sometimes they can just sort of get lost. And if you're not used to speaking your thoughts out loud like I am, then it kind of feels a bit weird. And you're like, oh, people might hear me. But if you have like a thought diary, firstly, it gets them out of your head. And then you can also see them. I think seeing them, seeing is believing. But seeing them is so helpful because you're literally seeing your negative stream of consciousness on paper. And often I think what happens is these negative thoughts run in the background. It's like this like motherboard that's just going. And you're just doing your daily stuff and you don't realise how much it's actually bringing you down. But if you actually stop and listen to them, you're like, fuck me, shut up, stop it. And I've done that before. I've just, you know, been going on with my day and not really noticed and just been like, whatever. And then I started to do CBT, which again, I'll talk about in a minute. But I did CBT and I was like, shit, I'm horrible to myself. And it wasn't until then that I noticed, after I'd written down all of my negative thoughts, that how present and constant they were. So also, I used to have this thing, and I probably will do another episode on this, but I've given myself a fucking, oh my God, I'm rubbing away the skin on my elbow because I'm just gesticulating so much. Some people might just be listening on the podcast, by the way. I do actually have a video option of this on my YouTube channel, and you can see how, God, I've actually fucking given myself like table burn on my elbow. That's really sore from putting my elbow on the table. I've never had that before. I don't know what's happened. Maybe I usually wear long sleeves. Or maybe I don't like throw my hand around so much. But yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. It's at Dawn Barlow if you want to go check it out on YouTube. Or you can just type in Backseat Positivity on YouTube as well. Anyway, that's a quick little pluggy boy. So writing them down. It's quite nice to have just like one diary that you have in a secret place. Mine's in my... actually, I won't tell you. But having a secret diary that you have somewhere and you... It might be like, I don't know, under your mattress or something like that, or in your knicker drawer, your in your panty drawer, in your pant drawer, and just like having it somewhere where you feel safe and no one's gonna like go and read it. The other option is to either burn safely, please, or I have a shredder, which I fucking love. I shred, like, I don't shred anything naughty. I shred like all of my bills, for example. So having a shredder is great. I love having a shredder because otherwise you got to stand there and rip it up. Having a shredder is like a fucking life-altering decision. And they're not that expensive either. I think it was like 30 quid or from Amazon. So yeah, I recommend. Anyway, that's my shredder talk. But basically what I was saying is you could burn it or put it in the shredder. And then you feel like the thoughts are safe. Because sometimes when you write stuff down, you feel like you're putting it out there and then someone can just pick it up and read it. But if you get rid of it, put it in the fire, put it in a shredder, do whatever you want with it. I don't know, flush it down the toilet. Maybe don't do that, you'll block the toilet. Or just keep it somewhere secret that, nobody's going to like go digging around in. And that can make you feel better about doing it. Because I know that's been a fear of mine, is someone's going to read it. There are also worksheets that you can work through. I'm going to try and at some point bring some out because I think that they are really useful for overcoming your negative thoughts. And so yeah, just writing them down in a journal. It doesn't have to be like a specific thought diary. Sometimes the way I do it is I just write down everything I'm thinking. And it doesn't matter if at that moment in time you're not thinking anything. Just write down, I'm not thinking anything. Just literally anything. The sky is blue. The grass is green. Eventually, I'm telling you, do it for like 20 minutes. Eventually, some kind of negative thought will come up if this is something that troubles you. Or if you don't want to like do that in the morning, like as a habit, you can do it at specific times of severe negative thoughts. That's when I do it in particular, when I'm feeling like I need to journal. I know I should do it every day, but I'm really bad at doing habits because I have like almost no self-control. So basically, I'm not very good at making habits, but if you are, I would put that in your habit routine. Like in the morning, 10 minutes, some people do 20, half an hour, whatever's good for you. Some people do like a certain amount of pages. And it was really good for me in my creative journey as well, because I had like severely negative thoughts about how good I was as a creator, and it was really stopping me from making stuff. I would say some of that's still there, but it's definitely reduced. And what I did was I read this book called I've forgotten what it's called now. Oh my god. I've forgotten. I've literally forgotten. Anyway, it's got something in it called Morning Pages. I was trying to see if it was in here. It's like a creative way or something by Julia something. I can't remember. But basically, it's got in it something called Morning Pages. And for 23 pages, not 3 pages front and back, just 3 sides, you write everything you're thinking in your head. And it's like, my YouTube video isn't good enough. No one's going to watch it. No one likes it. Everyone hates my videos. The retention rate is shit. No one clicks on them. Like, I'm never going to be a good YouTuber. My podcast is terrible. Why does everybody listen? Like, those kind of things. And they're not necessarily true. Like, I'm not saying that nobody watches my YouTube channel, but or nobody listens to my podcast. But that's the thoughts that go around your head. Like, no one's going to listen. What's the point? I'm not even helping anyone. Some people have got millions of listeners and I haven't got millions of listeners, so what's the point in me even trying? Like, those are the kind of thoughts that get you down and stop you from doing stuff. So fucking get them out, burn them, shred them, cathartic. It says not to look back on those journal entries, but sometimes it's kind of useful. I think maybe in like a year to look back on them and be like, wow, that's how far I've come. I used to, be really horrible about my YouTube channel and now it's doing quite well. So, as an example. So, it might be useful to keep them, but you don't have to. The next thing to do is to challenge them. I find myself automatically doing this now, but basically, when I say no one watches my YouTube channel, for example, maybe I should do something that's a bit more relatable. Everyone thinks I'm fat, okay? Lots of people think that, as in about themselves. Everyone thinks I'm fat. And then you write down, well, my boyfriend doesn't think I'm fat. No one's called me fat. Maybe I'm just thinking that about myself. I have lost a couple of kilos recently. Do you know what I mean? Like, actually fucking evaluating and challenging those thoughts, because they're just automatic. They're habitual. They've just come out of your head and just been like, bleh, and they're not necessarily true. You think they're true because your brain's coming up with them. But actually, if you challenge them, you realise, no, they're not. They're not at all. Are they true or are they just opinions? next thing. This one comes up all the time, and I'm totally going to do an episode on this, but I feel like it's fucking, like, talked about so much. It's, like, become really fashionable. But I've got to cover it, you know, because I think it is an important tool. And that is mindfulness and meditation. And I'm like, fuck me, everyone's like talking about it, and you know, it's all over YouTube and stuff like that, how to meditate, how to be more mindful. So it kind of just feels like, well, do I really need to cover it? But some people aren't YouTube watchers, and I do think it is pertinent here. I don't meditate every day. I feel like I've become more mindful though. They're two different things. Being mindful is doing things more intentionally. And, you know, like when I'm brushing my teeth, I do this all the time, but I like walk around and do other things. What I should do is just focus on brushing my teeth and just being in that moment. Now, meditation is actually having like a sit down episode, focusing on your breathing and trying to like calm your inner like active monologue. So I would say you can do mindful sessions as well. Like it doesn't just count as meditation because you're sitting down, but it's like meditation is to me more of like the one where you're like sitting down, breathing, focusing on your breathing, but you can also be like mindful of things going on around you or be mindful of sensations in your body, and then you can also have just a more like mindful living attitude. I think it helps you notice your automatic negative thoughts and your just thought pattern generally. Like, are your thoughts fucking racing through your head? I feel like my thought pattern since I've started meditating and doing mindfulness and things like that, and I do it when I'm like really bad, and I would say that I'm more mindful every day, and I try to practice it every day. So I'm trying not to do two things at once. I'm also just trying to chill my life out a bit more. Why am I stressing myself out? Like, I don't need to be doing stuff whilst I'm on the bus. Like, just sit and be on the bus. Just be on the bus. I don't need to be like trying to do something whilst I'm walking the dogs. Just walk the dogs. Just have a good time walking the dogs and seeing the scenery and watching your dogs enjoy themselves. And that's the problem, is sometimes we can be like, oh, I need to make phone calls, I need to do this and this and this. Well, the way that I've done that is just try to reduce how much is going on in my life. But I think meditation and mindfulness has definitely helped, and my thoughts when I started doing it were like literally like a fucking train. They were like constant. And now I can sit and there aren't any. There are things pop up, okay? Definitely. Don't get me wrong. But it's not like, oh, I need to go and take the washing out, and I need to do the bin, and oh my god, what about the money, and oh god, I haven't paid the rent and the bills, and oh my god, British Gas going to contact me, and blah, blah, blah. And do you know what I mean? Like, that is what it would be like before. The next thing, number 5, we're nearly there. Change it to positive. At first, you might think this sounds fucking stupid, right? But we have this thing in acting where, and it's a bit insane. And if anybody watched us, wow, it would be quite an interesting thing to watch. But we basically shout positive affirmations at ourselves. So before every show, we warm up our voices and our bodies and our faces and stuff like that, and our minds. And we shout positive things. Like, for example, I'm not going to shout it because I don't want to fucking kill you, but kill your ears. I am enough. And then we keep shouting that for a bit. And then everyone, I love myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, those kind of things. And most people would never shout them because they think it's not true or because they think they sound insane. Fair enough. You don't have to shout it, but it brings the energy up for acting. But even if you don't believe it, just saying, I'm beautiful. See, I don't feel like that's true right now, right? But if you say that enough, you will start to believe it. Fucking believe me, okay? I'm telling you, even if you think your feet are ugly, if you say it enough times, I really like my feet are pretty. Other people like my feet. People would want to suck my feet. You will start to believe it, and I know that sounds insane. I know it does. But I'm sorry, there is someone out there who will love my feet and who want to who will want to suck my toes. So it's true. Be more positive, and you might feel ridiculous. You might just want to write it down to start with. You might just want to think it. But eventually, I think you should try and get to the point where you say it out loud. Say it out loud. And then at some point, shout it like no one's listening. And when you can get used to that, only then can you begin to love yourself and be positive about yourself. Try it, I'm telling you. But you'll need to try it for like a couple of weeks or something. Don't just do it once and be like, didn't work. Don't believe you. Like, try it for a little bit. Pick one thing that you're going to focus on. You don't just want to be like, my life's amazing. I have so much money. Like, you don't want to say things that are like actively untrue as well. I'm a millionaire. Like, I'm not a fucking millionaire. Like, and me saying that is not going to make it true. So, you know, I am 6 foot tall. Me saying that is not going to change it. I was going to say I am an astronaut, and then I realised that if I did say that, I could become an astronaut. It's not as though I can't. I don't actually know the criteria, so maybe I can't. Like, maybe you have to be 6 foot, I don't know. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's stuff, don't just go saying, I can make pigs fly. Say stuff that it could reasonably be true. The last thing, actually, is therapy. To be honest, I've mentioned so many techniques in here that would be therapy. For example, changing it to a positive, writing them down, keeping a thought diary, challenging them. That's all like a basis of CBT. But sometimes we're so deep in that hole that me, just saying it to you is not going to help. And you need help. You need someone to physically sit down and be in attendance with you to help you do that. I would say I was in that place where I needed someone to like hold my hand and get me out of there. But if you're like just trundling along, like feeling mildly negative, this could definitely help you. All the techniques I'm telling you. But sometimes we still need help, and that's okay. I think it depends on how severe things are, like I just said. But also, obviously, it is going to depend on money. If you live in the UK, then you have got the NHS, but if you're struggling already, I would apply now. It may take a few months to get a CBT therapist, because that is the state of the UK healthcare system. But that's fine. We still have access to it. Limited access, but there's still access. So get yourself on the list early. Don't wait until your mind's in the gutter and you feel shit about life. Start now. Okay, that is my advice. If that's not feasibly possible ever to get a therapist, well, it's fine. Just keep doing what you're doing, listening to a podcast, working on it yourself, talking to friends, talking to family, talking to other people that have the same problems, and learning new techniques that are going to help you. Reading books that are going to help you. You are your own advocate, essentially. So it's not impossible. You just need to have the will to do it and the knowledge of how to do it. And, you're here listening to my podcast. I've got quite a lot of experience in it from my own personal experience, but also as working as a doctor. So, keep listening. Anyway, that is it, I think. I've now got to go and perform. Good times. Yesterday was the first one. It went well. So I'm feeling positive about today. I am enough. I am gonna smash the stage. Yeah! Metaphorically, not physically. Anyway, thanks so much for listening, guys. If you liked it, please give it a like or a 5-star rating if you are listening on a listening app. That would be super useful. And if you're not, if you're listening on the web, like my web page app, can you go, please, to Spotify and give it... You might need to listen to one of the episodes first, otherwise it won't let you. But can you please give it a review? Because that honestly would super help me. It would super help other people get to my content. Because at the moment, Spotify doesn't really know what's going on. It needs help. It needs help determining who to show this content to. And if you give it a rating, and it will then be like, oh, people obviously like this. Do you know what I mean? And it might sound like, well, why would I do that, Dawn? Well, firstly, because we're helping each other here. But also, it's nice to help other people. Makes you feel good about yourself as in you're helping me, you're helping other people get to my content, but also how's it going to benefit you? Well, if my content gets to more people, then it will start making money. And then when it starts making money, I can put more time and effort into it. Not that I don't already, but, I can get guests on, which I would struggle to do at the moment. And I think guests would really, like psychologists, psychiatrists, etc. And that would be real great. So, and that would help you more, defo. Anyway, thanks so much for listening, guys. I will see you. I do upload every Monday and Thursdays. I recognise that I've been a bit shit this week. However, not shit, but I uploaded on Tuesday and Friday. I know it's one day late. I'm so sorry. But like I said, I've been performing. So I've got 4 shows this week. So it's been a little bit tiring. I hope you forgive me. And I will see you next week. Love you. Bye.